the movie's about a guy trying to find his daughter who's missing, and the series of discoveries you make over the course of the movie about what really happened, and who's really got the daughter and why, and a lot of different motives are revealed, and like a lot of fun movies with twists and turns, you know, it stays fun the whole way through because it keeps being surprising.
I started writing this in 2002 because they had rediscovered Vertigo, Hitchcock's Vertigo, and I started relooking at his movies. I was always a big fan, the craftsmanship, the big entertainment of it, the suspense, the twist, and I thought I'd love to do a movie in that style. They were the first movies that ever inspired me to even think about filmmaking. So I started thinking about which great titles he had: Vertigo, Spellbound, Psycho. I thought, what name like that, like a one-title name, hadn't he done that would be it? And then right then, the name Hypnotic came into my head. And I thought, Hypnotic, that's a great title, but what does it mean? And then within like 10 minutes, I came up with the basics of the story. Someone who's super uncatchable, a villain that you could meet them and you forget you even met them. They take your bank account, they take anything they want from you, walk away, and you don't even know you met them. So I thought that would be the ultimate person. And started crafting the script from there and came up with a lot of the set pieces that are in the film, the final film, sticked since 2002.
What made me want to do the movie was that the script had a number of different levels to it. I thought it was one thing, turned into something else, turned into something else. And by the end, I realized this is going to be a lot of fun to play this character. And even more than that, because of Robert and my admiration for him as director, I've always wanted to work with him. I've always been inspired by him, what he's done from the beginning of his career on. And I make it a kind of mission to work with directors that I can learn from. And I've learned a lot.
To follow Ben Affleck and his character of Rourke, this is a man who is in a deeply troubled place in his life, and he lost his daughter, and you know, his journey and his, you know, to strive to not only survive but to survive that emotional journey that he's in right now, and then to begin to understand that the world is not what we think it is, or even he thinks it is. Talk about the challenge that he already had, and then it just got like tenfold. And I think that audiences will watch that, and you never really get in front of this story, which is part of the reason that the script is so amazing. And I believe that the story is so amazing. You don't get in front of it. And all of a sudden something happens and you're like, okay, wait a minute. What's wrong with this picture? Or what's right with this picture?
And William Fichtner, I could not imagine someone better to play this character. I needed someone with a gravitas that you know right away, he's the villain. He's the guy you're going after, yet he has an intelligence and layers to him that only get unveiled later. And he's got this hypnotic quality to him. You put the camera front and center and have him look almost right into camera, and he hypnotizes you. He is so great in this, and he really had fun getting to go with it, and he just floats through each scene like it's nothing.
You know, Robert's really smart and understands movies really well, and because he's written a multi-layered script where you have one level of reality and then you reveal another level of reality, another level of reality, you really can't appreciate kind of the whole movie entirely, maybe until you watch it the second time, because there's so much of it that might seem a little off or a little strange or disconcerting, and then later on you understand why it is that way. And I really like the complicated, multi-layered aspect of it, and I like the acting challenge of basically I play a detective at the beginning, and then you realize later that that entire period has been where I'm under this like hypnotic spell and being kind of taken through this fantasy. So it's really my fantasy of what a detective's like. It's not really a real detective, which is kind of a lot like what some movies are. So it plays into the genre tropes of the detective movie in a kind of a fun way. It gets to play with that. And then it turns out I'm just a much more normal kind of regular dad, a guy. And so that's fun. I get to play multiple characters.
The moment that Robert sent me the script, I really loved it because it was different than everything that I was reading at the time. I was very curious when he started talking to me about hypnotics, about like that idea that he always had. Any actor would love to play in this movie because all of us get to play two roles in it. All the characters apart from Ben, and even Ben a little bit, without giving much spoiler, everyone gets to play two roles. So it's a very interesting script and very unique, I think different than everything that I've been reading lately. So It was twists and turns and a lot of emotions, different perspective, different genres in the same film. But the root of it is Hitchcock. The root of it is a thriller, and Robert's a huge fan of this.
Everybody just brings their A game. You know, you don't want to be the weak link of this group. You know, whether it's Ben Affleck or Alicia Braga, you know, JD and Bill. They're all just amazing and just, you know, consummate professionals at what they do and really have a hold on the character and a hold on the story. And yeah, it's amazing to play ball, you know, play catch with these guys. They're incredible.
The one thing that always elevated Hitchcock's movies was his casting. He always had people like Cary Grant, you know, or Jimmy Stewart, or Grace Kelly, Ingrid Bergman, and really wanted to cast this up and get real superstars. And Ben Affleck plays Rourke and brings that sort of Hitchcock mystique to this role. He is the father looking for his daughter. He is the relentless cop. And he's got such star quality and presence that I really felt like I was filming a Hitchcock film. Like I got one of those classic movie stars. He's of the right age and just came in lean, mean, and ready to rock. And he is awesome. He was really fun in this role.
You know, there's an enthusiasm about Robert that I don't think I've ever met anybody that quite has that. I know the first day that I came to Austin, got off the plane, stopped here, did a wardrobe fitting, went to see Robert on stage. They'd already been shooting for a couple of weeks. And Robert said immediately, "Come here, I gotta show you something." He took me in this little screening room and he showed me something that he shot, I think the day before, and he had already cut it together. And I had this instant glance at like his style and what he's thinking about. But a filmmaker that has that sort of enthusiasm, if that's not infectious, I don't know what is. And it's been like that every single day that I've been here, and it's just an absolute joy to be around. And not only with Robert, but for everybody that works with him over and over. Everybody reflects that sort of goodwill and feeling and vibe, and it's a special place to be.
Working with Robert is like getting the golden ticket to go to the Willy Wonka factory. Okay, you come here and you leave everything you thought you knew about the Troublemaker Studios process. You leave that at the door, and when you come in, it's a completely different experience. And they're all family here. Everybody who's on this set has worked with Robert multiple times, and so there's definitely a feeling of camaraderie and a feeling of family on this set. And yeah, you just want to come in, and you don't want to be the, you know, the adopted child that's a little bit weird or sticks out a little too much. You know, you want to come in and you want to blend in and you want to play your role. So yeah, it's been incredible being in the studio and being in the crazy, magical, mystical world of Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, I'm working in Austin, Texas again in my own Troublemaker Studios, and I'm always using that as a selling point. Studios, come film here, it's one-stop shopping, and it definitely is in this movie. We didn't have to go anywhere. There's very few days that we're on locations. Most everything was shot, every nook and cranny of this place, from the elevators to the offices, to behind the back lot, to this back lot itself, which is leftover set of Alita, doubling for Mexico. And we get to use it in ways I can't even reveal that I've always wanted to use. And it is phenomenal. It is really something that saved us tens of millions of dollars because we're utilizing everything that's around here. And it gives the big scope, epic scope that a Hitchcock-type film deserves.
I love working down here in Robert's whole setup. He told me about it, and I didn't really understand what he had going on. And it's like, it's hard for me not to be jealous because it's my fantasy world. You know, he's very much like, you know, somebody came and visited me and was like, he's like a kid with toys. He's like you. And I was like, yeah, I feel the same way. Like, he's got all this great stuff to play with, this backlot of his own, and it's like a movie filmmaker's fantasy.
My favorite part of the movie is absolutely when the ball drops. You know, when we go right into the third act and the veil has been pulled over Rourke's eyes, played by Ben Affleck, and he sees the world for what it really is. You know, it's just such a gut-wrenching moment. You don't believe what you see. You know, from that moment on in the movie, every single thing that happens, you're not quite sure of what's happening, you're not quite sure of what real is, you know. And not to be political about it, but we're in a day and age where the truth is, you know, on the verge of being extinct. You know, the truth is fighting for its place in the world. So I think there's an allegory there for truth and for what is truth, and, you know, how do you decipher what's real from what's not real. And, you know, this is a movie that's gonna mess with people's minds when they leave trying to figure out, you know, what's real and what's not real. So for me, yeah, when Ben wakes up to the reality of his world, that's an incredible moment. That's what you go to movies for, period.
My favorite thing about the characters in this movie is that every time you think you understand them, you learn something new and they change. And so all of the characters are really fun that way. The actors are terrific, but I really love the change that my character makes in particular. I think it's really fun.
Hypnotic has always been my favorite story, original story. Since I started writing it, it just captured my imagination, fueled tons of ideas. You could create a whole series, of movies or TV series with this kind of concept. It's a big concept because it does what we're trying to do as filmmakers. You bring an audience into a dark room and you try to hypnotize them. You try to make them believe that what they are seeing is absolutely real, at least real enough to become emotionally invested. You're creating a hypnotic construct around them using images, sound, music to make them feel and believe a certain way. And that's what the film is about. That's what happens to the characters, and they can't tell what's real and what's not after a while. And that constant playing with the characters is what we do as filmmakers with the audience. And you see the relationship really well, and it's why we love movies. It's why we love, visual storytelling. And this takes that and goes all the way with it, slams on the gas.
So working with Robert is, and I really mean this, and I haven't said this many times in my life, if ever, there are some people that I've worked with, and Ridley Scott being one of them, that I was just so happy to have that experience. But to work with Robert and his vision in everything that he makes, and his style, and his sense of how he shoots things, how he perceives things, the stories that he tells, it's a little bit of a bucket list thing for me. So when this opportunity came up, there was no hesitation whatsoever. I'm going to Austin, Texas.
It's such a fun environment. Robert's such a fun filmmaker. He's such an open, collaborative guy. And we just have common interests. And if I could, I would do exactly what he's done. This is my fantasy filmmaker world. So it is a joy. I didn't know what it was going to be like coming into this. And it's kind of, I feel like I found a kindred spirit in Robert in the sense that we both really love all the technical, creative aspects that go into filmmaking. And it's really fun to work with somebody who you both admire and look up to, and who's really friendly and kind, and who is really inclusive in his process.
No, that was one of the main things I was excited about, was we were making a movie for the big screen, with a release pattern that was going to be designed for theatrical. And for being something that would draw repeat business, you want to make a movie that will have people come to the theater again and again because it surprises them and they want to bring others, and it's a communal experience because the surprises and the shocks come fast and furious. So it's a real audience picture, like a Hitchcock film. Even if you see it at a revival theater, plays amazing to an audience even today. And I wanted this to have that. So seeing it on the big screen, the imagery is huge. That's why I shot it 235. It was my first widescreen movie. I'd never really done a film widescreen. This is the first one. I really wanted to feel big.
Hey. And 5.